Hey folks, Unchrasmatic back with another Godzilla review, and I wanted to use this opportunity to take a look at one of the favorite King Ghidorah figures in my collection, and I wanted to specifically review this one because of all the hype and excitement that has been generated because of the new Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer that just dropped at Comic-Con last month. A lot of focus is obviously on Godzilla himself, but also on King Ghidorah, who has started to slowly become a household name among the Comic-Con attendees and followers and whatnot, as he is portrayed to be the ultimate nemesis of Godzilla, and he is also my favorite non-Godzilla character. So what we have here is the Bandai 8-inch scale Mecha King Ghidorah figure that came out in 1991 for the Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah film of the Heisei series. And right here we have a tag. I get my autofocus in place. So this is the tag featuring the spectacular poster art of Noriyoshi Orai, who unfortunately passed away a little over 3 years ago. A spectacular artist. You could see there that this really awesome art featuring Godzilla and King Ghidorah locked in combat, which derives some degree of inspiration or acts as some degree of inspiration for the Comic-Con poster that everyone's been raving about online that came out last month that features King Ghidorah and Godzilla locked in similar confrontation. And go back into focus. This figure of Mecha King Ghidorah was the first Ghidorah figure in my collection, purchased here in Midtown Manhattan at a store called Forbidden Planet, which some may or may not be familiar with. The price at the time was $75. So you can see the last four digits that show the yen price of 3,500 yen. So I don't remember what the exchange rate was at the time, but quite a hefty markup from 3,500 yen to $75. But, you know, this was around, I think, right before the internet started to get more prevalent in homes. So when they announced the new movie, or when the movie was announced that he would be facing King Ghidorah, the image of King Ghidorah was not readily available to fans and collectors. So a lot of the first images that we got of the new Ghidorah suit came through in the release of the toys. Now, what they did with the regular King Ghidorah, or like the non-mecha version of King Ghidorah, was they reused the sculpt from the 1984 figure, and then they just retooled it a bit by sculpting new heads. So if you've been following my channel since the beginning, where I put up a couple of reviews of the Bandai King Ghidorah from the original 1984 version, and I'd like this opportunity to make a shout out to Kyojin Wan, who made a comment that he's been following my videos since my 6-inch Imperial review, which I think was 2008 or 2009, so let's just say 10 years ago. If you've been watching, if you've seen that King Ghidorah review, the 1991 standard King Ghidorah is the exact same figure, they just retooled it with the heads. The Mecha King Ghidorah in front of you is the first new King Ghidorah sculpt that Bandai had done at that time for the first time in 7 years. And it is the first King Ghidorah that they had ever made that was actually in proper scale with the Godzilla that was in the same product line. So I don't know if you've picked up on this fact, but I'm a bit of a nut when it comes to scale. I like things to be portrayed as how they were in the film. And one of the challenges with King Ghidorah is that he's such a huge figure to reproduce, or he's such a huge character to reproduce. Companies often take shortcuts, and Bandai, first and foremost, one of the most guilty, and they shorten his height and stature so that he's of equal height with Godzilla, but not in the same scale as Godzilla. So they get around making a proper size figure by kind of reducing the size to make him look at Godzilla at eye level. But, you know, as someone who watches the films, King Ghidorah has never been, or rarely has been, with the exception of the GMK film, the same size as Godzilla. He's always portrayed as significantly larger. So the first thing that caught my eye when I saw this in the store for the first time is that they had sculpted a figure that was substantially larger than Godzilla and portrayed that King Ghidorah was a force that he needed to reckon with. And the mecha components of this figure are done very well. The detailing is quite nice. First and foremost, you can see the sculpt of the machine hand that features in the movie. Obviously, no toy would be able to actually reproduce the functionality of the machine hand until many, many years later with the SH Monster Arts release, which I still need to get around to doing. But the Bandai is a very impressive figure for the 8-inch line. At the time of its release, it was the tallest figure ever released in the Bandai 8-inch line. In fact, let's take a look at the formal measurements. It measures about 11 inches and about 11.2 inches to the top of the horns. So quite a tall figure, not quite 1 foot tall, but quite a tall figure. And the wingspan is also quite long. It is more than a foot. So when you're considering the Bandai 8-inch line, this guy takes up a lot of space. The tails extend quite a bit. You can see the footprint of the figure here. Again, measuring with a ruler, it's about 1 foot long. So from a display standpoint, you need 1 foot of depth. You can always fold the wings, but he looks a little funny if his wings aren't displayed fully spread out. You need about 13 inches width for the wings clearance. You need about 11 and a half, say, for the height. So quite a bit of a footprint that he occupies. The detailing, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'll zoom in, I guess, on the kids' control center. That's this thing right here. The detailing, again, on the mecha parts is really, really nice. The head sculpt is much more detailed than the original Bandai 1984 King Ghidorah. There's a nice shot there with the ridges and, you know, in the horns and whatnot, and kind of the I guess like dragon texture, so to speak, on his face. And you could see the red reptilian eye. That's a nice touch. The mecha head is just molded in gray plastic with some coloring in the eye, some green coloring in the eye, and some red highlighting for kind of like the laser gun in the mouth. The actual suit has much more subtle coloring on the head, but then again, this is a child's toy, so I think it's a fairly good representation. The overall figure itself, is molded in two base colors. One is the gray for the mecha components, the other one is gold for the organic dragon components. So there's not too much paint on this, but it works from a presentation standpoint because, you know, the primary colors are metallic and gold. Of course, the main culprit that they have is the inaccuracy of the wing coloring, where this section right here is not solid gray in the film. It's a sort of a dark brown, kind of like a solar panel-ish type of texture, for lack of a better term, which is not solid gray. It's you'll see it in other figures of Mecha King Ghidorah where they change the coloring a bit. So going back to my original point about him looking, or him being the first King Ghidorah figure that Bandai released that is to scale with Godzilla. Here is the Bandai 1991 Godzilla, and you can see how much taller the Mecha King Ghidorah figure is than Godzilla. Clearly much larger. Let's have them side by side. The regular 1984 release of King Ghidorah, here's one from the 1989 tag. Let's put them side by side like this. They're at eye level with each other, right? So they're the same size, but they're not necessarily in the same scale, which I think is where Bandai is a little bit guilty with the majority of their King Ghidorah figures. So let's set him aside, and let's set him aside. So the posability of this one, of course, like any King Ghidorah, most of them have neck articulation. I was a little too aggressive with displaying this one when I was younger, so this right head is a little loose. One of the cool display options that you can do is, and this is why the head is a little loose, is you can turn the tail like this, and let's see if I could zoom out a little bit more. And he kind of looks like he's flying a bit if you hang him on string, or if you display him on like a flight stand, like one of those, I forget the name of the company, but one of those Gundam flight stands. You could set him on there, and then he looks like he's in mid-flight. That is one option to display him if you don't have the shelf space for his entire. So I had a little bit of an audio issue, but I was discussing how if you don't have the footprint or the shelf space to display him, you can always portray him in that flying pose. So again, to recap the Bandai Mecha King Ghidorah, over the next couple months leading up to the film, I'm going to review some more of the King Ghidorah collectibles that I have, ranging from figures to statues, a couple model kits here and there. I haven't built them yet, and other stuff, just because, you know, he's the second biggest part of my collection after Godzilla, and I'm really excited for the film. And I want to share with you guys some of the stuff that I've been acquiring over the years that you have King Ghidorah as a focus, so that when we lead up to the film, the followers in the channel can have a nice library of figures or a nice library of videos to refer back to if you ever want to track these down, or in the process of tracking them down. This particular guy, my favorite Heisei design in the entire films, in the entire Heisei series, my favorite King Ghidorah design after the original 1964 version. Wanted to start with this video first, because if you don't have him, he's readily accessible. He's definitely more affordable now for some reason than when I got him back in 1991. Again, with or without the tag. The tag is really nice because you have the artwork from Noriyoshi Orai. I forgot to showcase the katakana at the bottom that says Mecha King Ghidorah. The other option is the 6-inch figure, the 6-inch scale Monster Island series, or whatever it is, movie monster series. That one I don't have yet, because I don't know if I'll get him, because this figure right here is from the 8-inch line is very much my favorite Mecha King Ghidorah figure. There aren't that many of them aside from the Monster Arts and the various Bandai offerings. Next month, well, hopefully sooner than next month, I'll take a look at the Godzilla Forever Mecha King Ghidorah, which is the same sculpt but has the quote-unquote premium paint apps, which are definitely more film accurate. So just wanted to start off with this one, and we'll get the ball rolling with those reviews, and we'll carry on right through the movie. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care.